Good evening, everyone. It's Dr. Toth, live with you, Keiser Live. We are in week 4. So that means that we are at your first assignment, correct? Is that right by everybody?
Yes, sir.
All right. So while I get ready to upload something here, somebody tell me about this week's material. Entertain me. Not all at once. What are we covering?
Talking about target searches and opportunity for offending, as opposed to focusing on why people offend. We're focusing on why the targets that they offend at instead of the person.
Okay. And so what does that entail?
Property managers. Let's see, what else do we have here? We have the proprietary and the handler, right?
Okay, so what about that?
Well, I'm getting there.
No worries. Anybody want to jump in and try and help out?
Dr. Toth, I would say that when it comes to proprietary crime, the main thing that I took away from it was, like they say in real estate, location, location, location.
Okay. Can you expand on that a little bit? Because I'm all about location. I'm paying for location where I live, I guess.
Well, there are certain areas that are more vulnerable to crime, uh, as opposed to, and some of that can be because of the neighborhood itself, the security measures that are in place to protect the properties, uh, those types of measures.
Okay. So relative to the types of neighborhoods, can you expand on that?
Uh, yes, sir. We're talking about when you talk about neighborhoods, it could be demographic makeup, it could be economical makeup, it could be a cultural makeup that you know can be conducive to criminal activity, gangs, drug use, prostitution, all those types of things.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to expand on this stuff?
Three of the characteristics that Cullen spoke about this week was high social mobility, low social and economic status, and deteriorating physical conditions, which would cause an increase in criminal activity. So that's one of the things that, three of the things that they're looking for. And then the other thing that I found interesting was the crime triangle. It kind of puts it in an easier to understand perspective, because it shows you there's two layers of the triangle. There's the inner layer and the outer layer. And the inner layer consists of the offender, the victim, and the place. But then if you have a strong outer layer that can protect, manager can protect the place, the guardian can protect the victim, and the handler can control the offender. So I really like that crime triangle, the way they set that up.
All right. So how, and this is open to all of you that are with me. How would the material that you're covering this week perhaps factor into last week's material? Specifically, what Cohen and Felsen said, and that sort of thing, and Septed and all of that. Do you see any parallels to that?
Yes, with the broken window, the unkept neighborhood, the things like that, so people will pass by, or they'll stop and engage in some criminal activity if it's unkept or things like that.
Okay. So with that said, when you look at that, right? I mean, when you're examining these things, what's your take on it? What are your feelings relative to these types of perspectives? Because remember, when we started the course, I told you that most criminological theories try to explain what? What do most criminological theories try to explain?
Most of them try to explain why.
Why what?
Why crime is committed.
Okay, why crime is committed, why offenders do what they do, right?
Correct.
So do the last 2 weeks that we were covered, last week and this week, do they really focus on that?
No.
No. So that would mean that they really they're not buying completely into the deterrence concept. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Because deterrence says what? Everybody would offend if they could, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Listen to me. Do not fall into that trap. That is like, I don't know if you guys can see me on the video, right? But that is like, hey, look over here, look over here. Here it is, here it is. It's deterrence. See, everyone will offend. That's not what these theories are saying. That's what deterrence says, and that's what our criminal justice system is based upon. Okay? Deterrence theory. Does everybody understand that? Does anyone have any doubt that our criminal justice system is based upon deterrence, general and specific?
No.
It is. Yeah, I mean, please understand that. But that is not necessarily what these theories are saying, okay? Because these theories are not saying that everybody would, in fact, commit crime. They're saying that, in this week's case, that certain locations are, in fact, for lack of a better term, and I think Steve used it. Steve, do you go by Steve or Steven? Because I keep referring to you as Steven.
Oh, Stephen's fine.
Okay, Stephen it is then. So Stephen, I think used the term, I think it was you, Stephen, used the term magnet, right? You with me? Okay. So would we agree that there are certain locations and certain areas and certain places that are in fact magnets for crime? Would we agree to that?
Yes.
Okay. Can somebody give me a good example besides abroad, just saying in neighborhood? Somebody give me an example of something that they would consider to be, based upon your readings and coupled with your own experiences, a place that would be a magnet for crime that you think?
Convenience store?
Convenience store. Who said that?
Stephen, sir.
Okay, Stephen. Okay. A convenience store. Why?
Because of the location and because it has a lot of product and it usually only has one person or maybe two people tending to it. Then you have a lot of them in low crime neighborhoods.
Okay. And would we say that all convenience stores are created equal relative to their magnetism, for lack of a better term?
No, they are not.
No. Okay. Why?
Um, just take an example of Maverick, how well lit it is, how open, so people can observe people coming in and out, as opposed to maybe one that has bars on the windows, is nestled in a little corner area. You can't see, it's not well lit, that type of thing.
Okay, very good. What about if you were going to say rob a convenience store? What sort of things would you look for besides lighting? Obviously, you would want a place that wasn't that well lit, right? But what else would you look for if you were going to rob a convenience store?
An easy in, easy out, ability to blend back in.
Yeah, easy ingress and egress, right? Absence of guardians, Tanisha just typed up there. Correct, right? Obviously, if you were going to rob one, would you want you would want one that did decent business, I would assume, right? Right? But not too busy, right? You wouldn't want there to be a lot of people in there. You'd want to case the place close to the highway, windows covered with posters. Yeah, all those things. Okay, so you get that idea. What theory could that be related, or is that related to, do you think, that we've already covered in this course? What theory do you think that's related to? Routine activities theory, yeah, I definitely see the connection to routine activity theory for sure. I do see that connection. What about the decision process to decide to rob a place? Yeah, rational choice, both. I would say you see a lot of congruencies with routine activities theory and rational choice. Does everyone see that? Yes? Okay. Good. I know you do, Tanisha. You said it. Thanks. I'm kidding. All right. And everyone else sees it, right? That's with me? You guys see it? Okay. Stay with me for a minute. What I want you to understand, what I'm trying to get you guys to do with these particular theories is we already ascertained that last week's theories and this week's theories don't fit within the two broad areas of most theoretical perspectives. Most theoretical perspectives, I think Carl said initially, try to do what? Number one, explain why offenders offend, right? The other thing many theories try to do is what? Explain why what? What do other theories try to explain? Not why offenders offend, but what? I talked about it at the very start of the course. Why people are victims. Yes. Those are the two major, the two broad areas, if you will, that most criminological theories focus on. Why offenders offend, why victims are victims, right? These theories are more geared towards what? Crime. What are they geared towards? The act itself, and what are they interested in stopping? Crime prevention, right? They're geared towards crime prevention. Now, with that said, while these theories that you covered last week and this week, while they do a good job explaining why certain locations or areas are more, use Stephen's word again, provide more of a magnetism for criminal activity, does everybody that go into the convenience store that's very robbable, do they rob it? No. Correct? Does everybody in a low income, socioeconomically deprived area, depressed area, full of broken windows, and by the way, I'm just going to opine for you. I hate broken windows theory, but that's just my opinion. Okay, I hate it because here's the thing. Does everyone in an area that fits fits the perfect picture of broken windows, what it tries to explain. Does everybody in that area offend?
No.
Did a majority of the people offend?
No.
No. No. I mean, no, they don't. And I can tell you right now, I know many of you work in the criminal justice system or have worked in the criminal justice system. And if you've spent any time in the criminal justice system, whether it be in the correctional side, in the policing side, anything remotely tied to the criminal justice system, this one thing I guarantee you, you know, and we know this per fact. 80% of all crime is committed by roughly 20% of the same offenders over and over again. Right? If you're a cop and you worked in one area, you ended up arresting the same people over and over again, many times. And if you didn't arrest the same person over and over again when you arrested them, if you ran their criminal history, it went on and on and on. Am I correct?
Yeah.
I guarantee you I am. And I know that not just from personal experience, but that's what research shows us. And remember, I told you I'm a research person. Now, with that said, one of the things I hope that you take from the material that you covered the last 2 weeks, this week and what you covered last week, is the following. Yes, certain areas are in fact magnets for crime. There's no doubt about it. And I think that the perspectives that we've covered, and in particular, you know, Cohen and Felsen from '79, it's a stellar theory. It really is. It's hard to find a lot of fault with it. And with that said, though, Cohen and Felsen themselves said, yeah, we got this great theory for crime prevention, right? And that's what all the perspectives that you look at this week fall under that same umbrella. But they said, way beyond us as to why this person is a motivated offender and this person is not. And that's why when you look at, and why this person's a suitable target and the other person's not a suitable target. So the vast majority of the theories that we cover, right, in criminology are in fact focus on those two things. Now, with that said, let me say this. The key, I think, with these theories, and then I want to get to the heart of what I want to go over with you guys tonight, which I think you will find extremely beneficial. I hope you will. The heart of the matter with these things is, you know, look, you can identify and you can, you know, entertain and come up with theories like Cohen and Felsen, like the various proprietary theoretical perspectives that are out there. And they're good. I do think they're good. But man, the long-term key, I believe, to crime prevention is not fixing or making these places less magnetic in nature. I really like that term, Stephen. The key is not, I don't believe, for long-term solutions to criminal crime reduction, is not making these places less magnetic in nature, because it's impossible. Somebody who is motivated to commit a crime, would we not agree that they will find a place to commit that crime?
Yes, I think once you've taken the magnet, what do you call it, magnet away, then they go somewhere else and looks for a different place where the target is a lot more feasible. So yeah, once that place is all rebuilt, they're just going to move on to another one. It reduces the crime in that area, but it doesn't reduce crime, period.
Yeah, and you know, what ends up happening is crime displacement. Crime simply moves. Yep, exactly. Thanks, Stephen. I think I beat you to the punch while you were typing. It's crime displacement, right? And crime displacement can, in fact, be often, sometimes it can be worse than where the crime actually was occurring in the first place, right? You see that with, you know, drug dealers just move from one block to another block, from one neighborhood to another neighborhood. Prostitutes move from one area to another, and that sort of thing. So now what I want you guys to start being able to do is, from my perspective, and this is my perspective, and trying to you know, whether you want to buy into my perspective or not, that's your choice, because you're PhD students or DCJ students, so you need to critically think on your own. But from my perspective, I think these sorts of theories, proprietary place theories, situational crime prevention theories, that sort of thing, I think they serve a good foundation, and they're extremely applicable for practitioners, right? They're easy to get your head around, but and they're easy to assist in that area. But the key is to taking, and Cohen and Felsen kind of they allude to this fact. The key is to take these theories, right, and then go outside these theories, out of the realm of these theories, and look at the theories that explain offender, or try to explain why offenders offend, and marry the two together. Does that make sense to you? Yes? No? Maybe? Yeah? Okay. Now, I want to address, before I move on, I want to address a comment, and for the life of me, I don't even remember which student wrote this. So one of you could be here tonight, and I'm not saying this to call anybody out, but I want to address this class-wide, so I hope you all get it. And I think it was in last week's discussions. But the student wrote something along the lines of, it's impossible to determine why people commit crimes because there are too many variables that factor into why people commit crimes. I find that statement extremely problematic as a criminologist, and I will tell you why. If I buy into that, then that's it. You may as well give up. You may as well give up and just go, well, there is no solution. I can't figure it out. There's way too many variables. I can't do it. I will say this. You know what? Everybody offends for their own individual reason. And no theory is 100% correct. I said that to you all before. But I do think, as you really look into theories, some theories are better explaining certain aged offenders. Other theories are very good at explaining certain types of offenders. And I think that while none of them are perfect, and they all have issues to varying degrees, some of them do a pretty darn good job. And I would also say this to you. Many of you have watched, I'm sure, or seen or are aware of Criminal Minds, or you're aware of FBI profilers, right? Would I be correct in that? Okay, good. Good, you're with me. Okay. You guys understand that Criminal Minds and FBI profilers, or whatever agency a profiler is with, they're basically engaging in applying criminological theories. Do you guys get that? And most of the profiling that takes place if you look at it and you really look at maybe a profile that an FBI profiler has put together or profilers has put together, I guarantee you, you can look at those things and you can probably tie vast majority of what they're saying to criminological perspectives or theories that we look at that are in the field, whether it be strain, social learning, and routine activities theory. That's what they're doing. And I think from my perspective, it's kind of cool to figure out why people do what they do or try to. You know, to take the approach that, you know, there's way too many variables to ever understand why somebody commits a crime. And being very blunt, probably studying the wrong thing then if you really think that. You probably are studying the wrong thing. Because I don't know why you want a degree in crim justice or in criminology. That is, to me, an easy answer out and just basically saying, there's no way to tell. Okay. Do I think any one theory is perfect? No. If it was, someone would make a lot of money. But I think it's important that you guys get that. And one of the things that I think, and we're not talking theory integration here, but I think that theory integration really, really plays a significant role. If we know no one theory is correct, why wouldn't we want to try to combine them? Because it goes back to what I originally told you guys in the very first class we had, and that was what? It was the following. I love crim theory because I've seen what crime does to the victims, to neighborhoods, to even the offender's family, and even the offender. And with that said, the only way to address that effectively, I believe, is to address the whys. A lot of talk right now about the shooting in Texas and how horrific that is, and literally why I'm sitting here with you all today. I just got a news alert on my phone that there's some other shooting. Let me see where this one happened. It just now came in. Let me see. Breaking news: at least 3 dead in shooting at medical center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Folks, if we're not interested in the whys, I don't have answers. You know, we need to look at the whys. So that's just my take on that. Any comments, concerns, questions? Think up the old guy's lost his mind. I hope most of you feel that way, and that's why you wanted to get the degree that you're getting. But I think that's an important perspective to take. Okay. And like I said, I don't know. I don't even remember who wrote that, but I was like, whoa. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns on that? Yes, no, maybe. Okay. All right. I want to pull up the syllabus for a minute, and I would tell you, especially if you've never had me as a student, to start paying attention, because I promised you all that I would go over with you what I expect in your papers for your big paper, and I also want to first go what I expect out of your theory critique assignment. Everybody good? Interested in this? I hope. Okay. So, Tanisha has had me as a professor before, and I know she's here. She will tell you, I guarantee you, if you reach out to her, that I am an extremely hard grader on your papers. All right, I am. And I do that because I want you to be smart. I want you to do the very best you can. And the reality of it is you have to be able to write, because you're gonna have to write either an applied project paper for the DCJ, or you're gonna have to write a dissertation. So let's go over some things, all right? So let's look at, I have up here the theory critique assignment. So here we go. First thing, and I think most of you are good on this, you have to choose a theory that we cover in this course. It does not matter if it's a theory that we've yet to cover, but you need to choose a theory in this course. Let me give you some hints. If you choose developmental life course theory, you better make sure that you choose one developmental life course theory. There are several. You have Sampson and Lobb, you have Moffat, you have Farrington. You don't want to choose a broad category, you want to choose a specific theory. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay? You good? Okay, now let's talk about what's expected in this. This assignment should be really, really easy. Let's talk about, first of all, what I expect in your introduction. Your introduction, whether it be for your theory critique or whether it be for your term paper or anything that you write, your introduction, right, or any paper that you write, not your dissertation, but any paper that you write, your introduction shouldn't be any more than a page and a half, 2 pages max. Probably ideally 1 page. And what should be in that theory, or what should be in that introduction, is first of all, the idea is to get the reader's attention. Grab the reader by the neck and say, hey man, listen to what I'm going to write about, because this is interesting. This is significant. Now, there's different ways to do that. All right? The easiest way to do it is to throw some statistics out there. For example, if say your theory was strain, you decided to write on strain theory, Agnew's strain theory, all the different iterations of it, whatever the case may be that Agnew's thrown out there, right? One of the ways that you could formulate that introduction would be to perhaps throw some statistics out on domestic violence, right? Make sure you have an in-text citation. X number of people are, interpersonal violence, relational violence, number of battered wives, battered husbands, battered children. You then could literally throw in some statistics on sexual assault, number of sexual assaults that happen, right? You then could throw in some statistics on murder. Now, would we all agree the statistics would probably be staggering, right, on all of those things? But do you see that if you laid those statistics out, this is just one example, but if you laid those statistics out in your introduction, would that get a reader's attention? Yeah, it would. I think it would. I think most people would be like, wow, okay, interesting. So you could lay those statistics out. Then you could literally say, and you could write something along the lines of, well, with these statistics noted, while they are shocking in and of themselves, the question becomes, why would somebody commit these types of offenses? And there are numerous theories that try to explain it. One such theory, right? And what you could say is, and this is key, right? The purpose of this paper is, right, to present an overview of strain theory, which can be applied as an explanation to these types of crimes. Does that make sense to everyone? That sentence that I just gave you, it would be what? Your thesis statement. I said this to you guys before. Your thesis statement for every paper should say, the purpose of this paper is. If you formulate your thesis statement around that, you will be golden. Then, the other thing that should follow that thesis statement, a roadmap of what you're going to cover in that paper. So remember, in the theory critique, you don't have to apply it to a crime. I just gave you the statistics as a way to do what? Grab the reader's attention. So you don't have to worry about that. So what you now have to do after you present a thesis statement is present a roadmap of what you're going to cover in your paper. So what you could say, and you could structure that roadmap around the following type phrases. In achieving the purpose of this paper, an overview of strain theory will be presented. This will be followed by a critique of the perspective. Now, you don't have to say anything about the conclusion. The conclusion speaks for itself, which I'll get to. You don't have to put that in a roadmap for any paper. But do you understand now what's in the introduction? First of all, you get the reader's attention. Secondly, you tell the reader the purpose of the paper, the thesis statement. Then you tell the reader the journey you're going to take them on. The journey you're going to take them on. Now, would we agree that if that's laid out simply, right, that you as a reader go, got it, great, I'm interested. Tell me about strain theory. Never heard of it before. Okay, give me a critique of it, the pros and the cons. Does that make sense to everybody? If you follow my recommendations, and you don't have to, you can see how that turns out for you. Tanisha will probably be able to tell you. It won't turn out well. But if you follow those recommendations, it will keep you focused, and it will keep you, it will make your paper readable. The conclusion, I cannot say this enough. Students oftentimes try to throw into the conclusion everything that they think they left out in the main body of the paper. And that is a giant, giant, giant mistake. Your conclusion should be the easiest part of your paper. It should be no more than 1 or 2 paragraphs long. In your theory critique assignment, your conclusion should be 1 paragraph long. And if I were writing the conclusion, and I'm telling you, I have not prepared for this relative to what I'm going to go over here with the conclusion on strain. If I were writing a theory critique on strain theory, this is what my conclusion would say. In sum, an overview of strain theory has been presented. This was followed by a critique of the perspective, which pointed out its strengths and its weaknesses. It should be apparent from the overview of the theory and the critique of the theory that this perspective is a significant theoretical theory in the realm of criminological or criminology. That's it. Done. All I've done in the conclusion is tell the reader where we went. That's it. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. And if you do that, this is an easy paper to write. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes, no, maybe. Okay. Do you have questions about the theory critique assignment? Yes, no, maybe. Okay. Listen to me. The other thing that you need to do is take a look at what the requirements that you need in this theory critique. It has to be at least 1,500 words long, excluding your title page, your references, figures, any illustrations, any of that. Your references, the main thing to remember is your references and your title page don't count. It needs to be in 12-point Times New Roman font, needs to be double spaced, and you need at least 4 references. 4 academic scholarly references. Don't throw in Wikipedia, don't throw in websites. You need scholarly sources. Now, let me tell you common mistakes that I see in the paper and what will get you jammed up. You need in-text citations. I've said this to many of you in your discussion posts. Look, pay attention to me. If what you're presenting is not based upon your own scientific research, and scientific research is not looking things up. Scientific research is conducting an experiment or a study. None of you are doing that. If the material that you're presenting is not based on your own scientific research, or it is not common knowledge, not common knowledge to criminologists, not common knowledge to cops, but common knowledge to Joe Schmo walking down the street who is like most Americans, doesn't have a 4-year degree, and is not involved in the criminal justice system as an active practitioner. If it's not common knowledge what you're presenting to one of those people, you need a citation. You need an in-text citation. You have to. You have to. Now, other common mistakes. Any questions on in-text citations? Yes, no, maybe. Everybody clear on that? You need to learn to do this, folks. If you haven't learned to do it yet, you need to learn to do it. And if you follow the simple rules that I just set forth, if it's not based on your own scientific research and it's not common knowledge, you need an in-text citation. You need it. Because, you know, I'll give you an example. The average person walking down the street does not know that the three main components of the criminal justice systems are policing, courts, and corrections. They don't know that. They don't have a clue. So you need a citation for that. It may be common knowledge to you, but it's not to the person out on the street. The other thing that students get really, really messed up with at all levels is they write a paper and they think they're writing the paper for me, the professor. And you go, oh, well, Dr. Toth knows that. Yeah, but you're not writing the paper for me. You should be writing that paper as if you were writing it for someone who has no idea what you're writing about. Just like if they were going to go into a bookstore and pick out a book and go, this cover looks interesting. What I'm telling you to do in that introduction is nothing more than what happens on any TV show or movie or book that you read. The first couple minutes, you decide whether you're going to watch a show, whether you're going to stay in the movie theater, or whether you're going to finish reading a book. Am I right? First 5 or 10 minutes, you make up your mind. Am I correct? Yeah, I know I'm right. And what do? In those first 5 or 10 minutes, a TV show, a movie, a book is trying to grab your attention to get you to keep going. And that's what you want to do in the introduction of your paper. Any questions on the theory critique assignment? What about well-known phrases like location, location? No, something like location, location, that would be fine because that would be somewhat common knowledge, right? Melanie, if I talked to somebody and said, I could buy that as common knowledge. Yeah, I wouldn't bring that. Okay. All right. You guys ready to talk about the paper? Because you ought to start formulating that as we're in week 4 and this thing is due quickly. All right. Let's look at the paper. All right. Look, once again, you have to choose a major criminological theory from the course that we're covering. Then you have to choose a major type of crime, just one, right? And I've gone over this with you before a little bit, but you need to be specific. Most of you have submitted your paper topics and I have approved them, so I'm good with that. Let's look at what and how this thing should be formulated. Introduction, same thing. Get the reader's attention. But in this case, when you get the reader's attention, right, what I would do is I would first, if you were talking about, well, let me give you an example. Let me ask a question and give you an example. If my topic was mass murderers, would it make sense in my introduction to get your attention by telling you or providing you statistical information on the number of sexual batteries that occurred in the state of Florida last year? Would that make any sense at all? No, it would make no sense. You would want to get the reader's attention by focusing on statistics relative to mass murder. Does that make sense? Okay, so same thing with the introduction, same exact thing with the thesis statement, except in this case, let me give you an example. Let's say that my theoretical perspective, just for funsies, will stay with strain, just for funsies, will stay with mass murder. So my theoretical perspective that I've chosen is strain. The crime that I've chosen is mass murder. Everybody good with that? Crystal clear, right? I would present a bunch of statistics if I was doing this, and this is just me. There's other ways to get a reader's attention. I find it to be the easiest. You get the reader's attention, then you hit the thesis statement. In this case, my thesis statement would be something along the lines of what? The following. The purpose of this paper is to provide an overview of the crime of mass murder and to present evidence that strain theory provides an excellent explanation as to why individuals engage in this type of criminal behavior. Any doubt what the paper's about? None. Everybody get that? Simple, right? Now, when you look at, and I've done everything I can to help everybody here. I've literally given you an outline for your paper. Once again, the introduction should be how long? How long should your introduction be, probably, in general? 1 page, right? Max 2 if you're being very verbose, right? 1.5 would be wonderful. Yeah, perfect. Now, you guys may be sitting there going, God, why is the old guy going over this? The old guy's going over this because, look, whether you believe it or not, and one day many of you will be professors, you're going to end up seeing introductions that are 5 frickin' pages long, and you want to shoot yourself. You're just going, what is this? You're like, dear God, right? So And make sure you get that introduction in. You get the thesis statement. Then what do you have to do after the thesis statement? In your introduction, what do you have to do after you give the thesis statement? Roadmap. You've got to present the roadmap. Now you don't want to say, when you do the roadmap, you don't want to say, and to support this thesis statement. No, don't say that. Don't use that terminology. But you may want to say something like, in supporting this assertion, a description of strain theory will be set forth. This will be followed by a brief overview of mass murder. Subsequently, a literature review will be provided that provides information or insight into how strain theory has been applied to mass murder in the past, something along those lines. Or you could say a literature review will be presented, which would be easier. A literature review will be presented concerning this theoretical perspective and mass murder, something along those lines. Next, an application of how, right, strain theory can be applied to mass murder will be set forth, presented, provided, those sorts of things. Lastly, policy and practice recommendations will be provided that will be provided relating strain theory and mass murder. Once again, no doubt on what road you're going to go down with the reader. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes? No? Maybe? You good? Okay, now stay with me. Your conclusion is just like I went over with the theory critique. It should be no more than a paragraph, 2 paragraphs max. And I'm telling you, easiest thing with every conclusion is to start it off with the catchphrase, in sum. Not in summation, not in conclusion. I would use the term in sum, comma. In sum, comma, right? So, if you were going to provide a conclusion in a paragraph, somebody give me an idea of how you would do that just off the top of your head. Take a stab at it with strain and mass murder. Don't be shy. Speak up. Come on. Anybody want to take a stab? All right. I will. In sum, a review of strain theory was noted. This was followed by a presentation on the crime of mass murder. A literature review was set forth on strain and mass murder. Next, an application of how strain relates to mass murder was, however you want, whatever phrase you want to use, set forth. Lastly, policy and practice recommendations relating to how strain can be applied to mass murder was noted. That's it, folks. Done. Finito. Miller time, Budweiser time, whiskey time, wine time, coffee time, whatever your beverage of choice is, you're done. That's it. That's it. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes, no, maybe. Don't go back and throw stuff in that conclusion of stuff that you forgot. I don't do it. It's just, it's craziness. Don't do that. If you get to your conclusion, listen to me. If you get to your conclusion and go, dang it, man, I gotta put this in there. Figure out where it goes. Figure out what section it is. Go back into your paper and put it in that section. That's not the purpose of the conclusion. It's not the purpose of that conclusion. If you want to be fancy smancy, I would tell you to do this. In your conclusion on this particular paper, right? What you could put on your term paper is, it is recommended that more research be conducted relative to the or concerning the relationship between strain and mass murder. There you go. You see it all the time in journal articles, right? A recommendation for further research. I would throw that in there if it were me. Now, let me talk to you real quick before I let you go about some common APA errors that I will ding you on. Don't write in first person. There's only a couple of instances where you can get away with using first person in APA. And most of the time, you should just stay away from first person in APA. First person is what? I, we. Don't use that. Don't use it. Get it out of your vocabulary. The other thing, don't use contractions. Contractions are not allowable in an APA formatted paper. Don't use can't, wouldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't. Don't use anything. No contractions, okay? The other thing I already talked to you about is having in-text citations as a whole. Make sure you have them. When in doubt, cite. Other things. Look, if you have, I'll just make up something. Let's pretend for, okay, I'll just make this up out of, right off the top of my head. In June 19, from June 1990 to July 2000, there were 25 mass shootings involving high caliber assault rifles. And let's say I got that from Johnson & Johnson 2017, right? Let's say that I also got from Johnson & Johnson 2017 the following, and I put this right after the information I just gave you. In the vast majority of these shootings that occurred, the victims were between the ages of 18 and 20 years of age. In that case, I have how many sentences? 2, right? Everybody tracking with me? 2 sentences. And they're all from what? Johnson & Johnson 2017. Does that make sense? You with me? Please say yes or no. Okay. Would I put an in-text citation of Johnson & Johnson 2017 after the first sentence? After the second sentence, or after the first sentence and the second sentence? I would put it after the second sentence. You don't have to put Johnson & Johnson 2017 after every sentence if they are consecutive in nature. If there's nothing breaking up that information that you got from Johnson & Johnson 2017, you put Johnson & Johnson at the end. Or I could have said, I could have taken care of the 2 sentences in the following way. According to Johnson & Johnson 2017, and then went into the first sentence, there were X number of mass shootings by assault rifles, right? And then in the next sentence, to make sure it was clear that I was still talking about Johnson & Johnson, because I named them at the start, I could say, furthermore, they noted that. It's crystal clear that way that everything relates to Johnson & Johnson. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes, no, maybe. Okay. Now, last bit of advice to you relative to your papers. Don't wait till the last minute to write these dang things. Don't do it. Because the one thing that can happen to the best of writers is writer's block. And to write well, you need to be relaxed. If you rush, if you feel rushed, you tend to block things out. So you don't want to do that. The other thing, if the term paper in particular, any term paper, feels overwhelming to you, realize, right, that you are writing, break it down by the sections that you're writing. And just go, okay, I'm going to write the introduction. Okay, done. That's what I have to do. I got to write a description of the selected theory. Boom, that's what I do. Okay? It helps, I'm telling you right now. The other thing, whatever you're writing in the section of your paper, it should relate to what? The title of the section of the paper you're writing. Everything that you write under the description of the selected theory should relate to the description of the selected theory. Don't go off on a tangent in that section talking about mass murder. That's not the purpose of the section of that paper. Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe. You good? How about I overwhelmed you? It's not my purpose. My purpose is to help you. Okay. One last thing. Don't make this mistake, please. You look at the guidelines that I gave you, or what needs, the sections that need to be in your paper. If I were writing the paper on strain and mass murder, my section titles would be this: Introduction. The second title would not be description of the selected theory, it would be description of strain theory. The next section would not be titled Overview of the Selected Major Crime, it would be Overview of Mass Murder. The literature review would still be literature review, that's it. The application of the selected theoretical perspective, blah, 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 would not be that. It would be application of strain theory, right, to mass murder. The policy and recommendations would not be derived from the applications of the selected theoretical perspective. It would be policy and practice recommendations relative to applying strain theory to mass murder. Does that make sense to everyone? Yep. Okay. With that said, that's all I got for you. Do you guys have questions for me? Yes, no, maybe.
Dr. Toth.
Now let me ask you this. The students that are new, the 4 of you that are still new, because Tanisha's had me, she's heard some of this before. What I just went over, be very serious with me. Did it help or not help? Okay. I hope it helped, because if I ever have students tell me it doesn't help, I'm gonna stop doing it. Because what I did was I took away from lecture time that we would have on the proprietary theories, or proprietary place theories. But man, I just think students at any level struggle with papers, and I hope it helps, because I think the approach that I'm giving you is the approach that I use when I write. And I promise you, it helps me, so I hope it helps you guys, okay? Anything else? Everybody good? All right. Well, you guys are good. Enjoy your week. And I will, if you need anything, reach out to me. If you have, the other thing is, if you have questions about your papers, just let me know. I will help you as best I can, okay? All right. Good luck with your paper that's due this week. I'm sure you'll do great. And that's all I got for you guys, okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you guys soon.